And we are live. So welcome everyone. Happy Wednesday. I hope the sun is shining where everyone is watching this. For me in London, it's actually snowing. So coldest day of the year, I would say so far. We've got the legend that is Mr. Tony Roche on the call today. He's kindly taken 20 minutes out of his day to talk about his experience working with me within 1% over the last few months. Tony is currently still a client as well. We're doing some awesome more work, but by all accounts, from my account, he's absolutely smashed it. But I want you to hear from the horse's mouth and Tony talk about his experience. So, Tony, before we kick off, do you want to just introduce yourself, who you are, what you do?
Yeah, good morning, Luke. Good to be chatting. Look, I'm Tony. I'm dad of two and husband. Work in marketing. 42 years of age, and yeah, busy life, much like everyone else in my my demographic. So yeah, interested to let you know how I've got on in the 1%.
Awesome. So as we were chatting there just offline, I think, the best place to start is kind of like where you were when you first reached out. So let's rewind a few months into the past. I maybe saw one of my posts, you dropped me a message, get in touch. What was going on with you back then that made you reach out and want to engage with a coach, somebody like me?
Yeah, for sure. I suppose I first came across you on LinkedIn, Luke, probably a year, maybe a year and a half before I had reached out. And a lot of the messaging that you're putting out and the content at that point resonated with me. But I wasn't ready to take action, I guess, at that time. But if we come forward into maybe August this year, I was just a bit fed up, to be honest. I felt I was stuck in a rut. I was making bad decisions around nutrition. I wasn't exercising, and while on the outside of all the trappings of a successful life and career, very happy, I just wasn't feeling good within myself. And I'd say it's just, on the day, whatever piece of content really hit home, and I just reached out and hit you up with a message to say, look, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And I think what you're describing there, Tony, not belittling your situation, but for the gents I work with and speak to, I think that's a really common narrative, which is this feeling of like, I've got all the jigsaw pieces of the great life, lovely wife, beautiful kids, nice house, good job, externally it all looks great, but for some reason how I'm feeling within it, there's a disconnect, not as happy and as content as you'd like to be. I guess usually physically not exactly where you want to be as well. And this sort of feeling of, is this what it's all about? And almost this sort of annoying dichotomy of like, I know I'm fucking better than this. Like why don't I feel like I want to, but can't quite necessarily see the wood for the trees to work out what it is you need to do, right?
Yeah, look, and that's exactly it, Luke, as well, right? So would have, again, think we all kind of know what the right things to do are. I think, generally, right, in terms of how to eat and move and to exercise, we kind of know what the ingredients are. But for me, I just didn't know what the recipe was, right? And you were able to introduce me to the recipe, really. But it's just putting the pieces together, right? Is the hard part, I think, when you're living a full-on life, right? The rest of the time, you're like, okay, I need to make change here. What are the changes I need to make? You don't want to, if you try and do too much at one time, that tends to fall down. But if you're doing one little bit at a time, it can be easy for that to slip, or you're not seeing the impact of it, and you kind of get disheartened over time. So, like for me at that point in August, I was probably topping out at around just shy of 15 stone, right, which is too heavy for me, right? And I didn't get there overnight. That was a gradual increase over probably 3 or 4 years, right, where each year just getting a little bit higher, and
a little bit each time,
a little bit higher, and you're kind of, if I could get down to X weight or whatever, I'd feel good. But that X was moving up each year as well, right? In line.
Yeah, the gap's widening, right? That's the thing. Yeah.
Exactly, right. And for me at that point, you're right. Again, everything going well in my life, thank God. I'm very fortunate, but it just wasn't feeling great. And I think my values, honestly, are, I think about like where I am today is I'm thinking about the rest of my life, right? The long-term plan here, and how I'm going to be touch wood, when I'm in my 60s, 70s, and 80s, right?
Yeah.
At that stage of my life, right? Because I think we should all live longer if we're lucky. And how are the later decades of my life going to be, right? And I firmly believe that whatever actions I take now are going to determine that long picture plan as well, right? So I had a very long-term view on this as well, and I felt, okay, if this is where I am now, and I'm on this trajectory of my weight increasing, my exercise being non-existent, right? Where am I going to be in 10 years' time? What's my, these kind of lifestyle conditions that people acquire over time as well. So,
yeah, and that's the sort of thing, like, without change or work to do something different, it doesn't just get better by osmosis. It's like, so like, if you're like X at 42 or 40, and then you're not happy with it and you feel uncomfortable physically, mood isn't as good, whatever, well then fast forward that 20 years without any input, like where do you think it's going to go? And part of this, I think, it's not about always just doing everything today at the sacrifice of tomorrow. It's important. We want to be that best person tomorrow, but equally recognizing, well, life's too short to be fucking like, malcontent, not as happy as you want to be, right now. So it's both, isn't it? It's like, I'm sowing the seeds for a great, last, decade, hopefully, 20 years, 30 years. But equally, I want to have a great life right now. And if I'm not feeling happy and content, I want to need to do something about it, which is, I guess why you reached out and we spoke. That being said, then let's fast forward to today, Tony. So, like, let's go from where we are today. What would you say your key successes and achievements are, having come through the blueprint, the 1%, the process so far?
Yeah, numbers oriented guy, just goes with the territory of what I'm working in. But like, if I look at kind of the numeric measures, right, my weight is down over 10 kgs, right? I'm down to 13 stone, right? When I weighed in today, from close to 15 stone when I started, right? And that's one measure of success, right? In terms of body as well, I'm pretty good shape, right? Compared to where I was. I've lost a lot of kind of fat, visceral fat, and have been putting on some muscle as well. So there's been that body transformation there as well. So I'm very happy with kind of where I'm at the moment, in terms of I'm looking good, I'm feeling good, and I can see that in things like clothes that I bought kind of just before COVID kicked in, that would not fit, right? For the last few years, I'm able to rock them on now and got a bit of usage out of them, right? Awesome. So, and I see that just in how my own clothes are fitting and stuff like that. I'm waiting to go on a shopping spree maybe in the new year, and get a few bits. But that's just one side of it, right? The other thing for me, I guess, is my energy, right? It's at a level that I honestly don't recall where it's when I had this much energy, right? So I'm getting so much more out of every day, right? Than I was 3-6 months ago, or for a long time before that. I really feel like I'm getting a lot out of each day. I'm able, my focus is much stronger, right? So whichever area of my life that applies to, it's really improved, right? So if I think about it from work, I'm really able to focus. I'm not getting kind of afternoon slumps or anything, with some of the changes that have been incorporated. Really able to focus in and to, I suppose, compartmentalize work as well. So when I'm finished. I know I've achieved a lot during that day. I'm set up for what I'm going to do the next day, and then I'm into dad and husband mode, right? When I finish work, and I'm really able to be present at that time of the day then as well, to be my best at that part of the day. And bedtime and all that, get the kids to bed, not under any kind of, not in any rush, not stressed. I'm really present and enjoying those moments probably more than I did previously when I wasn't feeling great, and kind of things were spilling out of work into having to work on those in the evening, and different bits, right? And being present. So just some of the habits I've developed around digital devices as well. I'm a lot less screen time in my life now, right? And I'm a lot better for it. I wasn't a social media hound anyway previously, but I'd be consuming news and different content that was out there that really wasn't serving me. And kind of through recognizing that and the habits around it, putting some things in place to help break those habits and formulate new ones, I'm getting more out of life now than I was previously.
I mean, what you just said there, I think it's for me, that's what it's all about. And I've said this to you, Tony, and the other gents in the program, like the weight loss piece, I love it. It's great. And it's what not everyone, because not everyone, a lot of people want to look better, feel physically fitter. And that's a box that we can tick. And we want that to be happening. I think everyone wants that to be happening as a byproduct of having some great foundations, not because we're hanging on by the skin of our teeth to a fitness plan. And that's important. And actually, how you feel physically has a massive bearing on how you feel mentally and your stress management and so on. But it's not the only piece, right? And what you're talking there about, that whole balance between being able to be focused at work, doing what you need to do there and perform well, but then being more efficient there. So then you've got boundaries in place. Then when you're finished, you're there present with your family, giving them what they need. And materially, we haven't given you any more time. And that's usually one of the biggest quote unquote excuses. I don't have time. It's like, well, no. And if I could actually give you more time, I'd be a billionaire, right? That doesn't work like that. But like, yes, what we can do is show you what you're doing. And more often than not, there's areas that we're completely blind to, or maybe sort of know, but don't really look at it, where we address those areas. Then all of a sudden there is more time there because you're more efficient at work. So then you are more present at home, and then you're more present at home because you're not glued to a screen or using that, and or because you're trying to do the spillover from work and so on. And so by improving little metrics across the board overall, that's where that balance comes from. Because some people say, what is work-life balance? And it's almost like a cliched phrase, right? For me, that kind of comes as an emergent property of having your shit together. Does that make sense? I know that might sound a bit crass, but I think that's what it is. It's not do this work-life balance. It's no. It's a multitude of factors that result in that balance coming out, right?
Absolutely, right. This tide of change, I suppose, has lifted all boats, right? So all the various elements of my life, work, being a dad, husband, my self-care, from a kind of nutrition and exercise perspective, from a mental health perspective as well. Some of the habits we picked up there, around journaling and meditation and things that have bedded in. All of these components, right, are raising everything. So it's not just focus on work-life balance at all. It's actually, if you're feeling better, got more energy, better fueled, it all helps, right? It helps everything across the board. And just going back to your point there about the weight loss, probably at the start, when you start off the blueprint, you're very focused on that, right? It's a big driver for people. Here I am now on the other side of it. I've got habits around checking, measuring my weight daily, but I don't pay too much attention to it, right? We've done some of the work to bed in the habits, and it's just a byproduct. So you know that's going to be managed and under control, and something you don't really have to sweat because you're doing everything else, right? And it's just a number there that you keep an eye on, and you understand why it moves up and down. It doesn't all go straight down all the time. You get your little fluctuations when you let go. And I suppose that's one of the points. It's not a diet plan. It's not an exercise plan in isolation, right? And I don't feel restricted. I've had a great weekend. I was at the cinema, munched on popcorn and Maltesers, and had a big dinner out on Sunday, and desserts and all that. I'm not restricted by what we're doing, and it's the balance you have kind of across your week and across time in general means that you don't have to be either.
Well, what you just said there is really important, right? Because so Christmas is coming up, and sometimes I get gents' message, and we might have a chat, and I've got a couple of calls this week, and I know it'll be, well, should I start in the new year? I was like, well, do you reckon you can have Christmas? Hopefully, a few Christmases before you die. And they go, yeah. I was like, well, surely we need a way to operate within it. Now, that's not being a monk, nor is it being Henry VIII. Do you know what I mean? And you can plot the course. And what you're just describing there about the weekend, like, that is life. Going and having popcorn and treats and having nice things. It's not what you want to do all the time. But anything, I think, where you want to empower someone to be able to have sustainable long-term change has to be able to have things like that in it, because that is life. Like, you're not going to want to go to the cinema with your missus or your kids and eat and have some treats and have a nice. Of course you are. So like, we need a way of operating that does that. Now, there might be certain stages with where you're in with life or whatever your goals are, that some of those levers and those habits and foundations that we have, we might pull a little bit harder on them sometimes to elicit certain results. But it's the same stuff, right? And I think that's the core thing, because once you've got those foundations, that's the toolkit you can play with, I guess, longer term or permanently. That being said, what would you say, Tony, are your kind of key, I guess, takeaways or learnings thus far from coming through the process that you've gone through?
I suppose being armed with principles, right, and with tools has been really effective, right? There's lots of information out there about exercise, nutrition, diet, and all that, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. But if you have kind of the principles of what you're trying to achieve, well, you don't have to be following anything too strictly. You know that, kind of if you structure when and what you're eating kind of roughly, that's going to give you a lot of what you're trying to do. Even things around protein intake and that as well has just helped. Just give that a little bit of focus. It's not too difficult to achieve, and it has kind of really good effects. So being able to, like, nutritionally have a simple enough plan to follow, which gives lots of flexibility and isn't too strict, and I don't have to go looking for mad ingredients or anything like that. I haven't changed much about what
goji berries and quinoa or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not looking around the shop trying to find mad ingredients. It's kind of easy and straight to follow. But I think one of the biggest things for me personally, right, that I've got out of the course is to actually take the actions, right? So some of that is the mindset pieces that were there, and not to procrastinate, kind of how to avoid procrastination, how to take action and do the things, right? So it's a little bit of self-accountability, and accountability to the group as well, kind of while going through the process. But ultimately you have to be accountable to yourself, right? And you have to take ownership of what you want to achieve. So it is kind of taking action and consistency, right? So as we've been through this process, we've been layering on different pieces kind of week to week throughout the blueprint period, which was pretty intense, right? You've got a few new things each week. Not massive, but just layering in a few new things each week. And when you're going through that, it's all new, it's shiny, you're kind of, I'm doing this and doing that, and it's very action oriented, right? But you have to, I suppose, I have to take action to make things happen, okay? But once I'm out of the other side of the blueprint as well, it's okay. Consistency now is the key thing. So what are the things that are brought forward? And we haven't brought every element of the blueprint forward. We've probably brought 80 to 90% of it, right? And adopted those, kind of bed them into my life, and it's just the consistency of routine and habits that are literally second nature now, right? I know what I'm doing when I get up first thing in the morning, and I know throughout the day kind of what the habits are and the timings and the scheduling and all that. And it's bedding those into your BAU, right? You're out of the blueprint, you're into life with the stabilizers off, and it's being able to continue on that bike, right? You might fall off from time to time, but you can get straight back on, and you have got the habits and tools and principles to kind of to manage yourself, really.
Yeah, and you articulated that really well in terms of having that foundation of habits and behaviours, and you go through a process, you're like all fired up, and it's like, well, now life's on. It's like, well, yeah, of course. And it's being able to be resilient and manage all that appropriately, given the circumstances life throws at you. And life does this all the time, right? And so, like, but if you've got one super strict, rigid approach to how to look and feel good and like take care of yourself, well, to me, that's as fragile as having nothing. Because then when life gives it a prod, it falls over. What I think we all want is a framework and adaptable and resilience. Yeah, of course, there's non-negotiables and foundations that we need, but they can't be absolutely concrete because that's not how life works, right? And so be able to, roll into a BAU method where you're rolling with it, I think is super important. What a little curveball question, nothing scary, Tony. Like, what would you say is the most surprising thing about the process? Like, what did you think? I wasn't sure about
that. I suppose overall, right? It's been the mindset element of what we've been working on that's probably had the most profound effect. Some of the exercises that we were kind of doing every couple of weeks around mindset, where you were kind of going away and taking a deeper look at yourself, and the things around your life and the things that are important to you, right? Some of the value pieces that we looked at, going away, writing that down on paper, giving it some thought, and really kind of working on those exercises was powerful, right? Because the docs that were produced there, you know, like it's not War and Peace or anything, but the actual thought that's gone into those in terms of producing those and going, yeah, look, that's actually what's important to me. That they're the things that I care about, and they're the things that I want to take forward in my life. And you've really given that some good thought. And then what are the habits that are supporting of that, right? Being able to tie your kind of day-to-day actions back to the things that really matter to you, right? To cut through the noise, not material things. What are the things that matter to you? And, you know, how do you support those? And all of the kind of habits and things that we're trying to implement and ingrain are there to support us in getting the best out of what's important to us in life. So really that mindset stuff was transformative and probably not top of mind for me when I was coming into the
and I think that's relatively common, and also the program like you described, it is a program of action. Like, it's not let's just sit there and think about stuff. It's about what we do. Part of it's about where am I at, what help do I need, what's not working, and then it's like, let's get our hands dirty and do something about it, right? But equally, those kind of bigger picture like mindset pieces where we're thinking about what your values are, what's core to you, what matters, what are your limiting beliefs, what's holding you back, getting an understanding around those is incredibly powerful, because it kind of puts a line in the sand and also gives you, people talk about, and I don't really like it, like, what's your why? Because sometimes you don't need a fucking why, just do, right? But equally, reminding yourself of what's important, what's core, gives you that like foundation. But then it's like, well, that's all great as well, but that's not going to happen by osmosis. So, like, let's get our hands dirty. And what are the inputs that support that? I mean, you give a great analogy, Tony, which was the whole, you know, I've got the ingredients, just don't have the recipe, and that's helping you, giving you the sort of the recipe and saying, well, this is what's important. Well, then now the things I need to do that, and the things I need to continue to do. So it's kind of putting the more slightly esoteric with the action pieces, but you put that together. I think that creates a very powerful place for change, because you're working out why and the importance, but also then, you know, what are the things that you need to do that. There's the Ryan Holiday quote I posted in the group the other day, which is that self-belief is overrated. I think it's something like use action. Do you know what I mean? You know, self-belief is overrated. Give yourself evidence. And I think it's like that. It's like, okay, great. We've thought about the big stuff. Right, let's do. Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yeah, it was kind of just to stepping back, taking that zoom out picture or zoom out view of your life, and, you know, as I say, what is important to you, why is it important to you, and then what are you going to do about it, right? And the what you're going to do about it, the actions are obviously what drive the results. And just really letting that sink in, you know, that consistency is key. Consistency is king, and having the discipline and the self-discipline to just get on and take the actions. Going off on a tangent now, Luke, but what I was going to say is, look, for me, one of the keys to the success that I feel I've had as well has been bringing my wife on this journey with me as well, right? You know, we're obviously husband and wife, and work together closely and across all areas of life. But it's really served us well too, in terms of, you know, my wife's brought in some of the actions and been working on things, following along, right, for a large part of this course as well. And, you know, she's feeling the benefits of it as well. But we're kind of you know, it's important that you have that kind of buy-in, because it's not that, hey, I'm disappearing now, I'm going focusing on me over here and all that. It's, you know, we're kind of doing it together, and it's that's been really powerful as well in being able to get those changes in.
I think that, and we've chatted about this, Tony, like that is super powerful, because what this isn't, as I'm hoping people are gathering when they're talking about, and I'm sure you know, because you've been through the process, it's not, let's still go and do a little load of mad shit on my own in the background at the detriment to everything else. Because all you're then doing is just setting yourself up for a fall, and it's not addressing any of the reasons why any of the guys I work with, like yourself included, that come to me to help to want to make change. It's like, it needs to incorporate life, wife, kids, everything else. But the more you can involve your spouse or partner in what you're doing, the better it's going to be. And okay, it's a men's program, right? However, the stuff that we do is totally sex agnostic, right? All that stuff is totally feasible for a female or male. It doesn't really matter. And more often than not, in my experience, like, say, someone's wife or their partner will be seeing them doing some of this and maybe get involved a bit or not. But then, rather than, like we're just talking about, it's action, it's not, you know, do what I say. they'll just go, oh, he's looking a bit better and he's feeling better and he's showing up better and he's more present. What's that you're doing? You know, like, so even if someone isn't initially bought in, but I think with yourself, you're totally transparent. You've almost done this journey together. Well, that just powers up any change we want to make. And ultimately, yes, we all need to put our oxygen mask on first to take care of ourselves, because that gives you everyone else a good version. But equally, a real part of this is because you want to be your best for your wife and your kids and whatever else. And so doing this as a unit, for most of us, that's why we're all here. It's us. And even before you had kids, it's like, well, it's us too, you know? So I think involving your wife like that, I think it's only added to the success you've had. And I know you've got huge benefit out of it, and so is she, which is fantastic, right? And that's the point.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I just thought it was worth mentioning that as well.
Thank you for sharing that, because it's really important. Because I think sometimes some gents might watch this or before the process go, oh, am I too busy, or can I fit it in, or what will my wife think? It's like, that's just the total. It's not another fitness plan to you know, it's not just another square peg you're trying to smash into your life. This is about taking you from where you're at and empowering you to thrive within all of that. And it's not like a battle against your missus for doing X. If any sort of process you engage facilitates that, there's something materially wrong with what you're trying to achieve, because it needs to incorporate what's going on in your life, right?
Exactly, yeah, and that was I think one of the keys to the success is that it has been, you know, it's the big picture, it's all of your life that you're kind of changing with these habits, and having the buy-in and support of my wife has been key.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that, Tony. I know you're a busy man, given what we just said there, so I won't keep you much longer. I hope anyone who's watching this has got a lot out of it, because I have, and I think the way you articulate and talk about yourself and your journey has been amazing, Tony. I guess firstly, like, yeah, I'm a coach and you're a coach, we've been through a process. Equally, you've done the hard work and you put the effort in and you put your hand up for help. And when things weren't working, which is 100% part of the process, you always put your hand up, we discussed it, we got to the root of stuff and moved forward. And the reason you're sitting here with the results you've had and going to continue is because of that work you put in, right? And so I just think what I wanted to say, it's been a pleasure working with you so far, mate, so thank you. Let's say someone's watching this and maybe they've seen some of my content for a little while, a bit like you in the background watching for a little while. And this resonates, and they're not sure about reaching out to someone like me or a coach, but they're in the sort of place that you were in back when we first spoke. What would you say to someone like that who was kind of on the fence about a process like this?
Look, first of all, right, it's really opened my eyes to the benefit of having a coach, right? Absolutely, like, key to getting the changes in, and to actually, you know, working together over a period of time. You might use it in other areas of your life, but for yourself, really good. What would I say? Look, for me, when it came to kind of, you know, biting the bullet and making the investment in myself, I had a mindset of, it's a long-term investment, right? And this is where I want to, you know, I want to change. I'm on the wrong track from where I want to be in 10, 15, 20 years time. If I continue where I'm at now, that's not going to get any better. So I was kind of viewing it, look, this is to kickstart me, to get me in the right direction for future me, right? Which it is, right? For sure. But actually, the benefits of this are not going to be realized. I don't have to wait 10, 15, 20 years to realize the benefits. I'm realizing the benefits right now, immediately in my life, right? And from probably the first week, you're seeing progress, right? Once you start to see progress, and that rate of progress starts to pick up, right? The longer you're in the course, the more benefit you're getting, and it really is building me up, right? Which it has done from day one. So what I would say is, there's really long-term benefits to getting into this and getting a handle on your health, right? Number one, I suppose, and then the other areas of your life. But you will really realize the benefits in a short-term basis as well. The payback on this course is quick, and I'd recommend to anyone who can and feels that they would like to go for it, right? And you come in with some unanswered questions, right? I didn't know what, to be honest, I was getting into in terms of what exactly the blueprint was going to look like. I knew what we were going to try and work on. And I just gave myself over to it. It's like, okay, whatever comes up each week, I'm going to commit to that and I'm going to get it done. And that's some of the mindset that you learn when you're on this journey anyway. And the results stand for themselves, right? And I can speak for myself, but I can also speak for the gents that I've been sharing time with on calls weekly as well. The progress is there to see for everybody. Everyone that's working with Luke is seeing results that they didn't believe were possible.
Awesome, thank you, mate. Well, and that's a pretty good explanation and endorsement, and I think that's right, because any kind of engagement, there's always going to be a bit of what's this all about, and no matter how well we connect and I explain the process, there's always a degree of unknown. But I think when you go into a process, and like you said right at the end there, and you see other people, right, they start going, "Oh, this works." Oh, right, and then it's like, let's go. So no, thank you, Tony. I really appreciate your time. And I know, like, we've done some amazing work. We're still doing some more work, and we're going to continue building on that, which is fantastic. If anyone's watching this and they're interested in having a chat, anything that Tony resonated from what Tony said or we've discussed today, reach out, drop me a message or drop a note in the comments. Tony, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for taking your time to talk about this. On that note, have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.
Thanks, Luke. Cheers.